Everyone thinks he or she is the best football expert on the planet.
I'm just playing for pride now. And my pride's gone.
We're very passionate people here.
Oh, well, hello.
We're ready to come for the W, yeah?
These girls will smoke you, man.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough, the weekly gaming news show full of the hottest takes and the juiciest gossip. We've got some really great topics for you today, including Xbox Game Pass harms sales, admits Microsoft. We've also got The Last of Us Episode 5. How can we not talk about that episode? We're also going to talk about a new Call of Duty game this year. Wasn't there already one? Well, I'll be talking about that. I'm delighted today to be joined by my colleagues, Aaron Potter and Matthew Aldus. Matthew is currently experiencing some technical issues, but he will be back with us very shortly. Aaron, how are you doing? You all right?
Oh, I have to say, I'm doing even better now that Matt's not around, because I wasn't going to say anything, but he's got poor taste in games. So, I'm sure, hopefully he'll be able to join us soon. But yeah, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And just as we're talking about Matt has now joined the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough. Matt, hello, how you doing?
Hello, I just had a nightmare with my camera. Sorry about that. It didn't work for a little minute. I did just hear what Aaron said, though. So thanks, Aaron.
Well, it's your chance to prove me wrong now, Matt. Come on.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't disagree.
Well, I'm really pleased to have you on, Matt. Thank you very much for joining us. Apart from your camera malfunctioning, how are you?
Okay, yeah, that was a bit stressful.
Good.
That was a bit stressful, but
yeah.
I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're live. These things can happen. If you didn't know we're live, this is how you know we're live, because technical stuff does happen every now and then. We've got an all new lineup. Obviously, Aaron and Matt haven't ever been on the walkthrough together, so it's good to have a brand new lineup for the walkthrough. Get some fresh faces on together. But shall we go into our first topic, which is that Microsoft admits that Xbox Game Pass harms sales. So this is kind of buried in the CMS's provisional report into Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, which we talked about last week. Internal analysis from Microsoft confirms that games' presence on the popular subscription service cannibalizes the sales of that title. It shows that internal analysis shows that there's a decline in base game sales 12 months following their addition to Game Pass. Other redacted sections of the report, sneaky, say that Microsoft's internal documents also recognise that adding titles to Game Pass will lead to cannibalisation of buy-to-play sales. These paragraphs are notable because Microsoft had previously gone on the record saying Game Pass actually helped with game sales. That's come from the Xbox chief Phil Spencer previously. So discussion question, and for everyone listening, if you've got any thoughts on this, we'd be really happy to hear what you think. Just drop a comment on the YouTube channel, and hello TikTok as well. We're live on TikTok today, which is really good. So hello guys, if you want to come over to YouTube and join the conversation, then please feel free to. But discussion question for you guys: Xbox Game Pass, is it good for gamers? Aaron?
Why are you going to start with me?
Because I know you have the hottest takes on this subject, so I will start with you.
Yeah, because last week I was already throwing some shade at Xbox, and it turns out I didn't need to do that this week because they've done it to themselves. So they're doing the hard work for me. I think everybody deep down knows that we're kind of in this sort of golden period of Xbox Game Pass at the moment, where you can pay, I think it's $10.99 a month here for a basic Xbox Game Pass subscription without the Ultimate tier, and basically gain access to 100 plus great games like instantly, right? So I think here, in order to try and like downplay their market influence, they're telling the CMA that, Game Pass actually harms sales. We're a smaller guy than you think, but they're doing it to themselves. So I don't think that argument holds any weight. But in terms of just the headline Game Pass harms sales, people are more likely to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass than they are purchase a $70, £60 game outright. I think is a no-brainer, and that it shouldn't come as a shock to anyone at all. What's more shocking is that Xbox seems happy about that because, for the past couple of years, they've been focusing less on actual game sales and profits made and more about engagement. And I think, if you read between the lines a lot of the time in terms of the stuff that the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, is saying, this isn't surprising news in the slightest.
Matt, as someone who doesn't own an Xbox and is normally a PlayStation or PC player, from the outside looking in, if you look at Game Pass, you pay a monthly subscription, you get access to a number of titles straight away, including some day one releases for those under the Microsoft banner and Xbox exclusive banner, which looks like a good deal. And obviously you can put in a console with that, and it's on the outside it seems like a pretty good deal. But what do you think from the outside looking in? Do you think that it's a good deal at the moment for gamers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's a good deal for gamers. The only comparison I can really draw in my mind is what's going on with like Netflix at the moment. It's if Game Pass is a sort of subscription based model, and you don't find a way to make money through anything else other than the subscriptions, you're gonna end up. It's gonna end up eventually failing. When you look at other streaming services like Amazon Video and Disney and whatnot, they've got ads running on their own content, and I think unless like it kind of at the moment is great, but I think like for the future of what it could look like, if we start getting ads in games that aren't like optional and things like that, then I just think that the path forwards has to be a very careful one for it to stay good for gamers or to not annoy gamers, because gaming is a much more personal experience than watching a film or something to a lot of people. And I just think like if to keep it sort of financially viable, they're only relying on subscriptions, then it's going to end up in a very tough spot. So I don't know. Like at the moment, I think being able to pay £10 a month and being able to play all sorts of different games is a great entry for new gamers and people that may not have wanted to spend the £60 to £80 on that particular game, but they want to try it. So I don't know. Like I don't really know what the answer is, if it's good for gamers or bad. I feel like yes at the moment, but it potentially could go downhill quite fast if it gets itself in trouble.
Yeah, right now it's definitely a good deal for gamers, because it's literally, would you rather pay £70 for a game outright or $10.99 to try it, not knowing if you enjoy it or not? But I think it's quite telling that the other two big rivals, PlayStation and Nintendo, have been doing all they can to sort of stave off the sort of trap that Microsoft is trying to drag them into, because Microsoft can afford to take the financial hit. It's trying to spend $69 billion to acquire one publisher at the moment, which is, the biggest deal in history, but in the grand scheme of things, a drop in the ocean for a company that size. PlayStation and Nintendo aren't that large. And I think by and large, you see that PlayStation and Nintendo both put out first-party exclusive games that are worth buying. Great games are worth buying and paying for. And Xbox doesn't really have that at the moment. Like Halo Infinite is dropped off. We've got Forza coming this year. We've got Redfall and Starfield this year. So were it not for the Bethesda deal, Xbox would be in a very dangerous position right now, were it not for them. But even still, of course, they're going to, focus on engagement over game sales, because they've got no games to sell compared to PlayStation and Nintendo anyway.
Yeah, there's another interesting angle as well in terms of for developers as well. Mike Rose of No More Robots HQ on Twitter has come out with something today. He says that all I can say is we're aiming to get every single title we publish from now on onto Game Pass. In doing so, we'll secure success for each title and relieve immense pressure for the devs. But please, gamers, continue to explain why it's bad for us. So from from a developer's point of view, obviously, if you get your game on Game Pass, to kind of offset the lack of sales, it's assumed that Microsoft will, give you some money towards that and to help that kind of thing, and obviously that does relieve some strain from them. Where do you see it from the developer standpoint? Do you think that it's still a good thing for them, or do you think that it's kind of I don't know, it's almost like maybe like a housing bubble type situation at the moment with how things are going? I'll pitch that to Aaron.
Well, I can see why the developers like it, because it's a guaranteed influx of cash, right? Whereas a game like of the type that No More Robots publish, I believe they did a game called Descenders, which was like a bike riding game.
Yeah.
Like, if they throw that onto the PlayStation Store, you're not guaranteed. You're up there with thousands of other indie games, whereas Game Pass is still a lot of games, but it's 100, and odds are that someone will, scroll down and play you. If you're a game, or a developer making that game. So again, I go back to this idea that we're in the halcyon days now, but Matt brought it up earlier. Like, Netflix are struggling; they've hit the subscriber ceiling. Xbox hasn't reached that point yet. So the task for them is to hit a level of subscribers where it eventually becomes profitable, and they stop have to eating financial losses. So I, from what I've heard, just in passing, is that Xbox
insider gossip here.
Well, I won't go that far, but Xbox are very particular about the games they select to put on Game Pass as well. That they've never stated what their criteria is, but again, it's easy for Mike Rose to say that sort of thing. But what if yours is the type of game that Xbox isn't looking for right now? We already have a Descenders. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah. I'm just going to read a quote from Spencer from 2018. He said, "When you put a game like Forza Horizon 4 on Game Pass, you instantly have more players of the game, which is actually leading to more sales of the game." He added, "You say, well, isn't everyone just going to subscribe for $10 a month to play this thing? But no, gamers find things to play based on what everybody else is playing." So that was in 2018. Maybe his opinion's changed in 2023, because obviously it's been 5 years since that date, which is mad. But so it's a kind of contradicting what he said there with what's come out with the CMS. What's interesting, I think, is that this has come out is because I think Call of Duty, they want Call of Duty to be on Game Pass, right? That's the other thing. Aaron just put a little message. The CMS. What did I say?
You said the CMS.
Which
CMS
is
insider speak, content management system. Phil
Spencer's
talking to
I didn't even pick up on that.
Phil Spencer's writing in the CMS to me, little messages. Oh, Phil, isn't he funny? Isn't he funny?
Type to write directly into the CMS as well, I can tell.
Yeah, thanks for that, Aaron. The CMA report. Yeah, I should have said the CMA report. Obviously, Microsoft want Call of Duty on Game Pass. If Call of Duty went on Game Pass, does that make Game Pass instantly profitable at that price point? Do you think they'd get enough subscribers from that to make it instantly profitable? Is that their overall goal with this acquisition? Or I can see Matt shaking his head, so I'll go to you first.
Well, I no. I think if you look at the way, I mean, I guess it would depend on if Warzone and their in-game purchases and microtransactions and all of that, if they can build the player base up from what they've lost recently, then maybe that would have been true a year ago or 2 years ago when Warzone was at its peak and everyone was playing it and people were throwing money at it. Now I think people are more skeptical to spend cash on it, and they're losing players with the hopes that the new map that's out today is gonna save it in some way. So I don't think that the revenue from what they can generate from Warzone and Modern Warfare and whatnot is going to be big enough to be able to take that on and sort of cover that cost. I just don't see it.
Yeah. Are you sure? I'm gonna give you some stats before Aaron. I'm just gonna give you some stats here. So, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which came out in October last year, made $1 billion in 10 days
because people could buy it.
So as we're going to talk about later, there may be a new Call of Duty for this year. Even if it gets any close to those figures, aren't a significant amount of people, instead of spending 80 quid, say for example the Microsoft Activision deal goes through, aren't a significant amount of people, not all of them obviously, I'm not saying like 70% or whatever, but if enough of them say, you know what, I don't want to spend 70-80 quid on a game, I'll just pay £10 for Game Pass and I'll get it straight away.
I mean they'll pick up subscribers, but that's a short-term gain. Like long-term it won't work. I'm talking about long-term. Like I'm talking about, is this going to make, you're saying is Call of Duty or Warzone gonna, and any new games gonna make it sustainable for them to be able to for Game Pass to be a financially viable thing? And I just don't see one title being able to cover that cost in any shape or form. Even if they made $1 billion on the next game, eventually that money's running out at some point if there aren't enough players to continue to make in-game transactions that they'll obviously reap the benefits of. So I just don't see it at the moment. Maybe Warzone or the next Call of Duty game will be so big and so brilliant and so successful that what you're saying will be right. But they haven't got a good track record of blowing people away like in recent years. No, I don't mean in general. I mean just in the last year or so.
I think, Nathan, like you make a good point in bringing the stats. Like, okay, it makes what did you say, $1 billion in 10 days?
$1 billion in 10 days.
$1 billion in 10 days by selling for
sales, not
sales.
like net, but in sales.
Yeah, but that's not taking into account the initial cost that Microsoft is going to have to eat to buy Activision and therefore Call of Duty as well, $69 billion. So with Xbox, it seems like this constant race to the bottom, which I don't know. I would liken to almost like what's going on with Twitter at the moment. Elon, he's just bought Twitter, and now he gets to be like, "Yay, I bought Twitter," but what has he actually got for it? Whereas Xbox, they've already committed to like a 10-year plan to put to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, so they'll be getting like a cut from each of the box game sales there. But I still don't think that's going to be. They're not going to be profitable or make it worthwhile within the first short-term period.
I think the danger is that it looks like what Microsoft Xbox are looking to do is monopolize the whole gaming landscape, which I think is bad for gaming and bad for gamers in general, just because if you don't have competition and you don't have, I mean, we've seen it with like graphics cards and things like that. At the moment, there's no competition. It's just the product starts to suffer because they don't have to try. It's true for titles in themselves. It's true for it's true for streaming services. It's true for games. I just think it's quite dangerous with the way that they're moving. And I don't know, like I think they've got a good chance of being successful at it. It will all seem brilliant at first, but it will lead to such a stagnation in excitement of gaming. We're already kind of in a space where it's like AAA studios we're not a fan of that often because they just don't seem to try and don't seem to have the love and passion for making games, and it's more about money, and that's all this is going to turn into at some point in my mind.
I think the ultimate goal for game, this is the last thing I'll say on the subject, like Xbox clearly wants Game Pass to be Spotify. What Spotify is for music, Xbox wants Game Pass to be for games. But what they're failing to acknowledge is that Game Pass is paying developers a sum to be featured on there right now, but once it becomes the only destination because it's driven PlayStation and Nintendo off, at least in the console realm, there's a different argument about PC where Steam's obviously still a big player. But imagine a library the size of Steam, but instead of paying for each individual game, you get free access for a subscription. Well, the eventuality of that is that the people that actually made the game get a small percentage slice every time you play it per hour, I would imagine. Per stream, artists get paid from Spotify $0.0003 dollars or cents. So if that's what Xbox is gunning towards, I mean, Spotify makes a lot of money. It's a great business plan, but is it great for the people that enjoy experiencing games and the people that make them? I'm definitely not convinced.
I feel like the last couple of podcasts have been very Xbox dominated, and I'm glad that you've been on here, Aaron, because you've obviously know your stuff on it, and it's great to hear your perspectives on it. I really like that comparison with Spotify. I think that's a very interesting take, and it's it'd be interesting to see where it goes. But are we saying it's kind of almost not doomed to fail, but it's almost like fate. It's gonna go this way, whether Microsoft want it to or not. It's almost too late to reverse that trend. Is that what we're saying, basically?
I think it's not it's not a case of it being doomed to fail. I think the failure will be in that if they manage to get a stranglehold on the gaming landscape, then it's going to fail for everyone else. Like like Aaron was saying earlier, Microsoft have many different revenue avenues that they make a lot of money on. They can take like big hits, and if their goal is to get every game under one roof, under their roof, then I think we're in for a bad time in terms of gaming. I don't think there's any positive that will come out of it long term. The short term future, I think like it will all be like, oh, this is great, this is so good. You pay £10, you can get any game, and then eventually that's the cracks are going to start to show, and we're going to realize that it wasn't a good idea.
I worry that we're being a bit too doom and gloom, but on the final note, I just want to say, like, if you enjoy something, pay for it. It's worth paying for. If you enjoy something, you get value, inherent value from that, be it a song, a movie. I still buy Blu-rays for my sins or whatever because I like owning things. Great things are worth paying for. It's as simple as that. It's been happening for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years now. Agreed.
I'm a very physical copy sort of person as well, for the subscription services. Like if you really like a movie, iTunes, like if you buy a song on iTunes, that artist could just get removed and then you've lost the song. You don't actually own that song. So yeah, I'm very much a believer in that and echo that, Aaron. So thank you very much for that. Let's go on to a slightly less doom and gloom topic, which is The Last of Us episode 5, which which I've just finished watching, so it's fresh in my mind. But I mean, guys, what an episode that was. Episode 4 felt like a bit of a part 1, as we said earlier. Episode 5, whoa! I mean, I knew what was coming, obviously because of the games, but like even then, like nothing could prepare you for that level of action, particularly in the second half of the episode as well. Feel free to take Aaron, Matt, go for it. What did you think?
I don't even know where to start. It's just, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I kind of knew the general scope of it because you can't escape social media these days. So I knew that there was some tragedy involved, but I think it was one of those episodes I thought, oh, this is gonna be a pretty tame sort of character building, introducing new characters kind of episode, and then I don't even know what to say about the end. It was just brilliant. There was one thing that I kind of did bug me, but I'll let Aaron
here we go
say what he thought before I go to the duct tape gate part 2.
I was just going to say, was it electric tape related? Your issue with this week's episode?
No, it wasn't. It was just, I think it's just maybe a lack of understanding on my part, but
yeah.
But the big bloater at the end, I just couldn't work out why it was like attacking people and ripping heads apart instead of like trying to infect them.
So did you know anything about, I know you haven't played the original game, Matt, but do you know anything about like the hierarchy of the infected, from runners to clickers to bloaters?
Like vaguely, like, you know, from what the show's sort of indicated, and I had a vague idea because I've got friends that have played the games and stuff. But I don't know. I know the bloaters are like, are they like the end of the sort of cycle of being infected or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. That they're kind of like, they're a rare breed in that, like, these are people that were infected and were able to survive at the, if not at the very start of the pandemic, in the cordyceps outbreak, quite early on, and they've been allowed to like fester and grow and mutate. Neil Druckmann describes it as, you become infected and then it takes over your mind. Eventually, the infection and the parasite breaks through your skull and cracks it, so it blinds you, and then you use echolocation. And then bloaters are kind of like covered everywhere and gain mass and stuff. But in terms of like the overall episode, I thought it's in hot contention for me to be the best of the season, probably behind episode 3, which I think most people would agree was a highlight for very different reasons though. But this episode, like the season, keeps managing to perfectly strike the right balance between condensing the events of the game into a way that makes narrative sense, whilst offering a different perspective on those events. And I think we get that in the character of Melanie, who gets her comeuppance. She says something in this episode in relation to children, I'll say, which just was like, well, she has to go, she has to die now. And thankfully by the end of the episode she gets her comeuppance, and I really enjoyed it. But the whole sniper battle was tense, because the whole concept of a sniper having to like sneak your way up, it feels very gamey inherently, but for somehow they made it very cinematic. And that whole sequence at the end, they built that town. It was like an eighth of a mile. They just constructed it outright, which is unbelievable. That's what you do when you got Microsoft HBO money, and you don't want to, collapse an entire industry. It can be put to good use, like it was here. But what did you think about it, Nathan? I heard your thoughts.
I think when you talked about Melanie, I think you talked about Kathleen, because Melanie's the actress.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
But I talk about. I just love the episode because just like you said, I think it struck that right balance between a video game adaptation, then also adapting it for TV. And there was bits in there which did feel very like gamey, but adapted so well for TV that it kind of made me sit on the edge of my seat and like feel that tension. That I thought that was just really well done. Particularly the scene in the car, even though it didn't last for too long. But that scene with Ellie in the car, and then a clicker comes in, or a runner comes in, I should say. Even though it was just a small scene, you still get that kind of tense up from that moment, because there's such a short distance between them. I thought that was done really, really well. And I think when we talk about Kathleen, I think there was just enough in there about her and her background to kind of make that bit work, about flashing between the two factions, if you like, because we kind of really saw their motivations rather than just them being an evil person that we're not kind of introduced to. You saw like the background about why that was happening and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, they're still bad people, but you kind of understood like what was happening in their world, and that was enough. So when obviously everything happened at the end, it made it just even more purposeful, I suppose. The whole. I think
episode. I think the episode did really good job of building Kathleen's character up to a point where you hated her so much that you were pleased when she sort of met her demise. But I still feel like we haven't answered, why were the bloaters not trying to infect people? Why were they running around ripping heads off like they were the Hulk?
But even clickers don't infect people. Like clickers will beat you, like they sort of like slam their hands down on you. So in episode 2, when Tess and they're making their way from the museum, I think they just want to like destroy. And then it's only when people get away that they potentially become infected, as we saw later on in the episode. But just on the bloater thing, I thought it was quite cool how the character of Perry, he's like, Kathleen, you go. And you can see the look in his eyes, like he knows it's all over. And my God, I thought it was so well handled that it's just slightly out of focus. It was very tasteful, because they could have gone really messed up with it.
But really gruesome with it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron. I'm trying to wrap my brains because it's been a while since I've played the game or watched people play it through as well. But bloaters, don't they release loads of the spores? Isn't that part of their attack mechanism almost, that they've got loads of spores to release directly at the person? Obviously, spores aren't in the TV series.
Yeah, right.
So they had to adapt it.
Okay.
Because in the game, I remember the bloaters being a bit bloatier as well.
They actually bloated. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it was obviously bloated. You could see, like, it was big, but in the video game, I'm pretty sure they were even bigger than that as well. So maybe that was an adaptation that they needed to put in some sort of more physical aspects to the character rather than having, because otherwise, if they're just just a big lump just walking around, then they're not that scary, are they? Whereas if they make them like
I kind of thought the bloater looked a bit like Groot on steroids.
that's a good shout, actually. Yeah,
Like
a teenager.
Really, like just beefy Groot, like just that's what it reminded me of. But it makes sense if in the game they're releasing sports, like, and then because they're not putting those in the
TV show.
In the TV show, that makes sense why that was happening. But it was another little thing that was like every episode so far. I think there's been one tiny, like so unimportant but it's annoyed me enough to be like, oh, God, they could have done something better with that.
They could have cast Tom Holland as the bloater here, like they missed an absolute trick.
I haven't seen. I'm looking forward to seeing Tom Holland in episode 9.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I'm just on the Last of Us wiki here, just having a quick look, and just to confirm what we said. So it says they're extremely aggressive, but are rather slow-moving and uncoordinated, making them more predictable. And as you said, bloaters see using echolocation rather than actually their eyes. They also talk about if a bloater grabs a survivor, it violently rip their jaw apart through brute strength, etc., etc. There is no way for a player to defend themselves if grabbed as well. The result is instant perma-death. Their main form of attack is that bloaters throw sacks of myotoxin, which explode on impact, spraying the target with the toxin. The myotoxin will hurt the player over time, so it's recommended to avoid these deadly clouds. So yeah, absolutely. So that's its main form of attack in the game. So the fact that if they remove the spores but leave then these sacks in that randomly get thrown, I think that confuses the audience.
Yeah, it does. It would confuse the audience.
So
I kind of like that it was just running around like
like
annihilating people.
Maybe that was The Rock. Maybe that was The Rock before. Maybe that was an infected Dwayne Johnson from years ago.
But it says a lot that we're 5 episodes in now, and I think we've had like maybe 2 action sequences if you don't count the prologue. Like,
Yeah.
Do you know that? That's
still
what's
on the edge of
really
my seat.
beautiful about it is that you realize, like, going into The Last of Us without having played the games and knowing the story, back to back, front to back, you sort of think like you're going into this story about surviving the end of the world, but actually you're going into this story about a relationship between 2 people, and that has been really, really well conveyed and really, really well developed, and it's been gradual but fast enough to keep you interested. And the fact that we've had an entire episode about characters to show that they're not just NPCs, they've actually got lives, and they've had experiences, and it makes the whole thing feel more human. I think the way that they've managed to balance all of those aspects and not just have throwaway characters, even if they're gonna be gotten rid of after an episode or 2, they've managed to still do those characters justice and still give them enough weight without ruining the flow and pace of the show. And you realize so quickly by episode 3, you realize like, hey, this ain't gonna be like a running away from zombies all the time sort of thing. It's really about the relationship and the traumas that these people are suffering and experiencing together.
Speaking of trauma, we haven't even talked about Sam and Henry yet, and
I
wanted to get Matt's
I don't want
perspective. Yeah, because it was almost like shot for line for line, I'll say. Like, we should like Sam in the show is deaf, whereas in the game he's not, and I thought that was like a really good way of like making sure that Sam and Henry, they have this like language between them and this bond that they sort of need each other in a way that's different compared to how Joel and Ellie need each other, and making Sam a little bit younger as well, compared to Ellie's character, helped Ellie sort of be that protector. And another new element was the whole "I will protect you with my blood" element. Which I'll be honest, I was like, oh, maybe they're trying something different here. Maybe we're going to have Sam and Henry stick around a little longer. But ultimately, no, it still ended in heartbreak.
I think.
and can I just shout out to Lamar Johnson as Henry and Kevin Woodard as Sam, just sort of like casting again, like nailed, so good. The portrayal of those characters, not just from like they're the same they were in a video game, but just as characters, making them come to life with the with the material that they've got, just kind of sensational. I thought that they're just so powerful in terms of performance, although they're only there for one episode.
I think the moments that really stood out for me were like the conversation they were having with their little magnetic board, and Sam asking if
Ellie ever gets scared.
If you get turned into if you turn into a monster, is it still you inside? And then the following morning, him being sat on the bed facing away, obviously because he's deaf, he can't use any echolocation. He's just got his eyes, and that scene, like it really felt like he was. You knew, we as an audience, we knew what was happening, but you still felt like it was him inside still, because Ellie woke up and he was in the room, and he was just facing away from her. And you kind of feel like that was him trying not to get her, but and then something took over as soon as he saw her. But like, and there was, so that moment was really, I think, like felt like really really poignant. And then when Henry had shot him, sorry for spoilers, and watching Joel's reaction of like, I know what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen. Like, and him trying to do something about it, just as he was sort of like opening up and becoming much more of like a inviting person to Henry and Sam, and the idea of like, hey, we're going here. Do you want to come with us? And all of that stuff, when 2 episodes ago he wouldn't have even entertained the idea. And that moment of him sort of saying, give me the gun, come on, give me the gun, and watching the thought process and Henry trying to process it was just like, it was torturous to watch, because you knew what was going to happen.
It's the fact that he ended it as well, like he's the one who takes Sam out. And I've always thought like, maybe if like Joel was the one, like Henry would obviously still be in a right state, but would he feel the need to, do what he ends up doing? Because he just can't live with it. I was just sorry on that point though, like new to the TV show, not to keep making comparisons, is the whole Sam has leukemia angle, and Henry's gone through so much effort and heartache, and the reason they're being chased right now by Catherine is he's gone through so much to save Sam. So the fact that we spend this whole episode with them, think they're going to make it, and then it's all over in an instant. It's like,
that final sorry Matt, that final scene where Henry does the thing that I think everyone with a child would do, is to point the gun at the person who's trying to point the gun at their child. But it's in that moment, because it's such a quick thing. I feel like it's such a powerful scene, because it's almost like you're seeing it from Henry's perspective. Like, what do I do? He's obviously panicking and he's not sure what to do at that point, and ultimately obviously makes the decisions that he does. But it's just like
he knows what to do in that moment, but he doesn't want to. I think that's the bit that makes it so. And all of that scene is like, there's no real words spoken. You're watching the acting is just such top quality acting that you're watching all of these thoughts play out in someone's mind without them saying anything. It's just and it's just the moment that Sam is not there anymore, and Henry's sort of looking. You can see he's looking, say, like, because he was supposed to protect him, and I've completely failed at that. and I'm the one that has ended it for him, and there's no purpose for me anymore. That you could see all of that play out without saying it, and
Didn't
then
need to say a word, did he?
didn't need to say a word,
Yeah.
and then obviously we get the him sticking the gun to his own head, and it was just so like, oh, I needed a minute after that.
Can I
Yeah.
just say, like, because me and Nathan have played the game and stuff, like hearing a fresh perspective on those events from you, Matt, is like really interesting, and it's.
I'm only
it's-
really watching it from a TV show perspective,
Yeah.
rather than and I think like there are loads of things in the TV show that it's just so well written as a TV show, regardless of whether they're in the
Yeah.
game or not. That it's just.
We're only speaking about the show on a weekly basis because it's based on a game, right? But like in a way, every time I make comparisons and stuff, I'm like, oh, it's a shame I have to do this, really, because in a way, I do envy your position, Matt, because I agree. Like just as a standalone TV show, it works so well.
It's like I don't get any of the this is different to the game, or I hope they do this right. Like I don't have any of that, and I kind of am pleased that I don't. But I will be
Yeah.
playing the game. Like immediately after the series. So.
Yeah, it's just the power of it, isn't it? I just want to mention as well about the environments for me. I just like, because I'm someone who enjoys open world games, adventuring around, looking for different things, and some of the environments in this episode, when they go into that like underground bunker, and the color on the walls, and like the way it's all done inside there with the goal and all the board and everything, just the environments. Then you talked about obviously that scene at the end where it's like the street and they've built that from scratch. Just everything about the show visually, I think it's just like outstanding. For me, that is almost the wow factor from that is just, I think that would do for me. If the rest of it was rubbish, it wouldn't matter to me. I just really enjoy that as well. Just want to put that out there. See if
And they've
anyone else
announced the
agrees.
season 2 already.
Mm-hmm.
Which is mad, and I'm so pleased.
Yeah. Well, there is
We're
The Last of Us Part 2 video game.
Yeah,
so-
well, it depends if that's the route they're going to go, or if they're going to.
I
if
think
they always
they've-
intended the second.
Neil
series.
Druckmann said, like, if we do a season 2, that's the story they'll be telling. So,
Yeah.
but for reasons I won't go into, they could probably turn that into the next 2 seasons of the show. But yeah, we're going to Seattle, everyone.
When we talk about it, Aaron, I'm just really interested to see what Matt will think of this story as it plays out, because it's just such a powerful story at every step, and there's so many things to come, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what Matt in particular
I know.
feels of it, because it's just because Matt, you got there's so much coming.
I know.
So
I'm
much
so
coming.
excited. I'm so excited and terrified all at the same time.
We're over halfway now, though. I think there's 9 episodes. So there's still so much to... Well, there's at least 2 key events still to come if they follow the right path. Well, a path.
The path. We'll see what path they tread, but their path trod the right path. If I can get that out, they trod the right path since they've started. So yeah, I can't wait for that. The next episode will be on Sunday, which will be cool. Scott, I'm really sorry, Scott. I know you're in watching. Hello, mate. On the Xbox Game Pass, I think it's great for games like Monster Hunter Rise. Getting 4-player co-op on a basically free game is a lot easier than getting 4 folks to play £40. Well, can't argue with that from a surely money perspective. And he also made a joke about lady in leotard with a gun on Xbox, which we've spoken about in our Slack channel. And numerous meetings over the last few weeks as well. We're actually going to end the show a little bit earlier today, folks, because we are streaming Call of Duty Warzone 2 Season 2 in a little while, around 5:30 UK time on our YouTube channel, so make sure you stick around for that. I think that's about all we got time for, folks, today. It feels like a bit of a shorter episode, but I feel like we've covered a lot. We've covered some juicy topics, and there's been some hot takes. So thank you so much for joining me both. You'll be able to catch myself and Matt, hopefully, if the update downloads in time, Matt, which I know we're crossing our fingers for.
It never goes smoothly, I can tell you that.
as we found out at the start of this show, didn't we, with your
Yeah,
camera? So we'll just have to hope that everything works. But yeah, 5:30, we're going live on our YouTube channel with Warzone 2 Season 2, checking out Ashika Island, which is the new Resurgence map. We'll be dropping in to the Resurgence map and checking out the Resurgence mode a little bit later on. So please stay around for that if you're around. If you've got nothing to do on this Wednesday night, why not just chill with us and we can explore the map for you. But Aaron, thank you so much for joining me yet again. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And Matt,
thanks for having me.
No worries. And Matt, thank you for joining us belatedly. Appreciate it. And
Thanks for having me.
I hope you've enjoyed your return to the walkthrough after a short break. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, our audience, for joining us. Thank you for TikTok who are watching. Thank you so much. Thanks to YouTube, and thanks for Facebook as well. We're live on Facebook as well. So hello, Facebook. Probably should have said hello at the start, but hello. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Mirror Game walkthrough, same time with the same hottest takes. Take care. See you next week.